Hello, and thank you for hosting me here virtually. I want to thank SAMED for having me, and I look forward to the privilege to speak to you all about the incoming investment into Africa and how you can better prepare yourselves to take advantage of it. So, I work with businesses like yours every single day in nearly every country in Africa. And while there are challenges facing you, I want to focus more on what you can do to take advantage of the opportunities. The continent has seen increased investment over the past several years, and we anticipate that to only increase in the next 5 to 10. Now, experts will look at things like a young and growing population, increased consumption, and stronger, more diverse economies as the key drivers. But I want to talk about how this affects you. Well, my advice to you is to start thinking like those investors that are coming to your market. Don't change who you are, but be prepared for the growth and adapt to those entering the market so that when they do invest, they'll see you as an industry leader that they want to be in business with. But let me take a step back and tell you a bit more about myself. My name is Brian Krawczyk, and I am the VP of Global Business Development for VIA Global Health. If you've not heard of us, we are a medical equipment sourcing platform that connects suppliers and distributors from around the world, making the sourcing process faster, easier, and more affordable. I've been doing business exclusively in Africa for the past 4 years and have done some level of business with almost every country on the continent. For the past 18 months, I've been leading sales for VIA, and we've connected distributors such as yourselves with over 50,000 products, 140 plus suppliers from dozens of countries. So, as VIA works with both suppliers and distributors, I'm in the unique position to see both sides of the supply chain and learn from each side to know what the trends are and what's happening and how to stay ahead of that. Now, I can't tell you what to do, but I can continue to advise you for how to best prepare for the changes that are coming. So first, let me talk about the challenges that you face that we've heard from our distributor network over the past several years. You've just heard an incredible wealth of information about the regulatory process. And I know that some of you are thinking, how does this affect me? Or worse, this is going to make business more challenging. To some manufacturers and suppliers, this may be enough of a hassle to focus your efforts on countries with more relaxed regulations. To you as a distributor or wholesaler or importer, this may seem like an impediment to your business, especially those of you in the room who are small to medium-sized businesses. It's important to remember that these regulations are being introduced with the intention of improving the safety of patient care in South Africa. But here are the realities. Regulations may decrease the number of international suppliers in the market, which means you have fewer products to source locally. In many instances, the regulations favor the larger businesses and make growth for a small business an uphill path. And they can even have a negative impact on patient care by limiting end user access to equipment and concentrating the access to major cities only. So I encourage you all to learn the process, but also question it and be vocal for how to improve it. When products become overregulated, suppliers and manufacturers must now rely on local businesses to help register and promote their products. This can often lead to exclusive agreements with distributors, and as noted a moment ago, those unsurprisingly favor the larger, more established companies. This limits growth of the small to medium-sized business, but also leads to situations that drive prices up with unlimited markups and no competition in the market. And it drives supply down, and patient care suffers as a result. And overall, we know that costs, or the lack of cost transparency, are a challenge for businesses here as well. You're required to pay in advance for products, but only receive payment from your customer upon delivery of products. Slow delivery and responses from suppliers and manufacturers mean that you're without that money that is needed to close other sales and make your other customers happy. And costs add up. Product costs, shipping, clearing costs, local delivery, marketing efforts, markups from whoever you're buying from as well. They all add up quickly and they leave you thin financially. And depending on the country you're in, the import process may be a challenge. And this again often hits the startup and small companies harder, as they do not have an import license. And then, therefore, they rely on sourcing locally only, incurring additional markups that would otherwise not exist if they could buy and import direct from the supplier and manufacturer. In some instances, corruption can lead to other import costs, and they can often be called something like storage fees or something else very creative. Because of the cost challenges, financing is one of the most common requests from distributors because your customers expect to see products before they buy from you, and they expect terms. And that leaves distributors in the lurch and needing credit yourselves. Because the banks and lenders demand high interest rates, especially for the small and new businesses, this reduces your price competitiveness as you have to pass that additional cost on to your buyer. And then when you also must pass on an order in general due to lack of capital funds, it limits what you can do to grow your business. And I don't need to tell anyone about this challenge, but I've heard it from almost every distributor I've ever met. Favorable terms for certain distributors or certain partners, predetermined tender winners, kickbacks, bribes. It happens throughout the world, but we do hear it more often in Africa than anywhere else. And a lot of that happens, unfortunately, because there are so many people involved in the process, and everyone wants their take as it passes through. But it's often not the business in Africa that's corrupt. Suppliers throughout the world can and have misled and cheated businesses here in Africa. For example, we as an American company just recently were sourcing through a major multinational supplier into SADC. And at the 11th hour, they changed the price, expecting us simply to pay because we had promised the customer the product. I have another story I always tell about a distributor in Zambia who had an order before they were working with VIA. This business had ordered a container of exam gloves, latex, powder-free, various sizes, no different than what you have made the same order for. And thousands of boxes were part of the order, with promises to the customers that it would be delivered on schedule and per their purchase order. When that container arrived nearly 3 months later, it was not full of gloves, but teddy bears. Now imagine calling your supplier and explaining this rather comical but worrisome situation and being told that it was not their problem and there was no fix for you. You're now stuck with teddy bears in Zambia. Your reputation in the market is now tarnished because your customers expected something from you and trusted you, and the supplier that you sourced from was unscrupulous and offered no protections of your order. Oftentimes, a supplier can be extremely slow to respond, or they can increase your quote or give you a vague answer, inaccurate information, fake documents, no training, no warranties, and in some case, no product delivered, or teddy bears. But what is important to know is that these conditions are improving. As foreign investment reaches Africa in increasing levels, they will demand solutions, and in many instances, they will be the ones to bring those solutions that now open up opportunities where none existed before. Be prepared for those and look for those opportunities as the solutions are presented. But first, let's look at who is investing in the region so that you can identify where to look and how to prepare for them. So this is just a small sampling of the names to be aware of. There are hundreds, thousands that are developing solutions to bring to the market in a variety of ways that may not be as simple to recognize as a large financial investment. So the global health community has always been here. Groups like the Gates Foundation, USAID, PATH, Grand Challenges Canada. But now those investments are coming in new forms outside of the traditional model. So look for those investments to increase, but more importantly, to diversify and enter in a more unique way than you may be expecting. And as you can see on the second line here, investments also not purely with cash either. Medical innovators are developing new products, putting their resources, capital, experience, and knowledge into new technology. And they're developing the tech not in a vacuum that is then introduced to you later, but side by side with you to learn from your needs and solve for them relevantly. We've done market research surveys with our distributor network very recently with groups like USAID, and those insights and data are used to directly influence their product development. So products like the Bempu newborn hypothermia monitor, the Gradian universal anesthesia machine, the MTTS Firefly phototherapy device, Pumani bubble CPAP, and the LifeWrap NASG are just a few examples of medical innovations investing directly in Africa in a relevant way. And there's also private investment. We all know about the Gates Foundation and their generous history, but private sector has been hesitant because they saw no money to be made here. They saw it as a place to do noble work, but not make money. But now, as there are private investment firms who are focused on social impact, you're also seeing private investment firms that are looking for purely financial growth, exclusive of social impact. There's also private companies like Facebook and Google that are bringing disruptive technologies and solutions to the market to solve for things like access and awareness. And ideas like e-commerce and digital sourcing are bringing a faster process and more affordable process to the market. And they're investing relevantly to you. Here you have the bubble CPAP device from Hadley Health Technologies. The origin of this product came from medical providers in Malawi who had identified a challenge in newborn respiratory issues, but needed a solution that they could afford and that worked for them. A university team met with, learned from, and developed their Pumani bubble CPAP directly with these medical providers. They found out what they actually needed and then brought it back to the US to manufacture it with the understanding of adding only what was needed and keeping the cost as low as possible so that it was realistic for the hospital and clinic to source it. The LifeWrap non-pneumatic anti-shock garment is the same type of relevant approach. They identified a growing challenge in the market of postpartum hemorrhage of mothers with difficult childbirths. The real insight was that most field hospitals don't have access to blood services. So the product was adapted from a NASA space flight product to buy time to get these suffering mothers to the facilities that did. You now have 72 hours to transport these mothers with a reusable product at a price that makes it realistic to source. So we have the who and the how, but to understand how to think like an investor, we need to understand the why. Why are they investing here? Those investing in Africa see an opportunity that some in the international community are wary to follow. And because of that, you find yourself surrounded by more entrepreneurial, innovative, progressive, inventive, assertive, and opportunistic thinkers. So Africa is a young continent demographically, and they're growing faster economically than any other continent. And the investors that see that opportunity and are willing to take on that opportunity will shape the way that business is done here. So why? Ultimately, money, growth, profits. This is still a private sector that has a responsibility to generate revenues and profits. The medical equipment industry in emerging markets represents an over $23 billion opportunity. That's over 300 billion rand annually. And Africa's business sector is growing 2 to 3 times faster than that of the US. So when you're looking for opportunities globally, there's no more attractive opportunity than bringing and supporting businesses here. Social impact and positive change are contributing factors, but the true reality is this: Africa is now a sound financial investment. Where other markets have plateaued or hit their growth cap, Africa is just hitting its stride. The rewards promise to be substantial for the investors. When you remove the volatility of the oil and Arab Spring financials, Africa's annual growth rate has actually increased recently as compared to the start of the 2000s. Recent studies have the business-to-business and household consumption reaching 5.6 trillion USD in the next 10 years. And so, how does this impact you? This means you need to prepare for and adapt to the market changes so that you can take advantage of the opportunities. So, a few thoughts for how to better prepare. All learned from you. So what I wanted to do is take the time to put all of that into one succinct talk to tell you what you've been telling me for the past years, and then combine that with our market insights that we've learned from both sides of the supply chain, as well as our interaction with international investors. So the first one is prepare to adapt. Be open to new ideas, new products, and ever-changing business models. History has shown that if you don't adapt, you perish. But be open to the change and move not only with the change, but if you can, ahead of the change. The second one is push, not pull products to market. Be proactive, not reactive. You know this, but it's a difficult thing to do, especially when you have bills to pay. So while I know you have bills to pay and selling products you are familiar with and that you have contracts for, take a look beyond the products that you sell now. I have suppliers every week come to me and ask if I have distributors I can recommend to them and refer them. And as new and innovative tech reaches the continent, seek it out and find ways to promote it so that they are then willing to partner with you as that local source. Don't rely only on fast-moving items. Find the products that can show better growth potential in the long term, even if it takes some effort to introduce them and promote them. So it's all about managing your product mix and looking for the long-term potential. Avoid the traditional approach. Don't do as others have done simply because others have done it. Don't immediately ask for an exclusive agreement. Ask instead how you can earn that business. Prove that you're an entrepreneurial market leader, and suppliers will find you to help introduce and promote their products because they know you're motivated to do so because you have measurable success metrics in doing it. I've seen this firsthand in our dealings with both suppliers and distributors. And remember, the global supply community is a very tight-knit group, and they talk. A good or bad referral will come quickly if you prove to be one of those things. Medical innovators also love their products. They've invested their time, their money, their blood, sweat, and tears into bringing them to life. They want to see that same passion from you and know that you'll represent it as they do. They want to see that you'll learn the details, ask questions, and be enthusiastic to truly promote it. Demanding samples and exclusivity is the easiest way to turn them off from working with you. Make your business corruption-proof. I know that this may be met with some eye rolls in the audience, but I've seen it work. I've seen companies that keep their markups down and look at larger number of sales instead. I've seen sales lost by distributors countless times because they're looking for that one big score with a high markup, only to have it stolen away by a more motivated distributor trying to establish themselves and build their customer network. Put your reasonable prices, a faster delivery, a more attentive customer service, and product knowledge ahead of short-sighted profits. In these cases, the market will adapt to you as your service, your speed, and your affordability will always trump corruption. Be an industry and thought leader. You are more than just a mover of medical equipment. You are a wealth of insights that every supplier wants and needs. Every global health organization and NGO wants what you have. You interact daily with medical providers and procurement in your local markets. These are the same people that they all struggle to connect with and learn the insights from. You know what they buy, when they buy it, and what holds them back from making a purchase. Suppliers want a distributor who can represent them and teach them, not just someone who can distribute their products. Take note, gather those insights, and use them to separate yourself not as a distributor or importer, but as an industry leader who sees trends, adapts their model, and identifies opportunities before others. And then think of yourself as a technology leader. Just as there was a dot-com boom and the market has now adapted to things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, the boom will happen in Africa, and it'll benefit those who are ready for the tech. If you see yourself as a leader of that tech movement, you will be. You will then learn, you'll study, and you'll seek out the technology. If you wait for others to bring it about and then jump in, you'll be fighting for the scraps after the money has been spent and made. So know the tech, immerse yourself in what's coming. The ones that do that tend to make a lot of money. But I want to bring it back to the original idea of thinking like an investor and not just the beneficiary of investment. Things are changing for a more digital experience with new companies rejecting the traditional company profiles and models, and they're looking at easier international relationships and avenues like e-commerce that make business fast and easy and affordable. And as much as we know firsthand that a handshake and a relationship is what business is built on here, the transition is happening where people are looking for more open-minded approaches to take advantage of the new investment. You're experts in the community. You're experts in your field and the medical domain. So let your voice be heard. Have a seat at the table for global health. Be the difference between just a sales channel and a smart and effective sales channel. You have all the knowledge and insights, now use it. There's not just lives to be saved here, but a lot of money to be made. And the world is taking notice. Be prepared for the onslaught of money and technology and expansion that will happen, and you'll benefit from it. Sit back and wait for it to come, and you'll see the more motivated and nimble companies pass you by. So things will not be the way in 5 years that they are now, but will you be? So I know we're going to try for a question and answer section here, but beyond that, I'd love to speak further with anyone who has any thoughts or insights. Please feel free to contact me on any of those channels listed here. And I want to thank you and wish you the best of luck moving forward as you prepare yourselves to meet and profit from the increased investment coming to the African continent. Thank you.